So then we are back with the modern understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. In Yeshayahu the prophet, we find in the 61st chapter, related with the completion of the spring feast, mentioning of the autumn feast, and then also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. We find then the governments transitioning themselves, then this new trade of the end, where then governments are becoming more aware of. They are not important anymore, because there is the new government of the kingdom to come, becoming then available as time goes by. Then obviously the holy cities are returning, and then we must understand then the economy of the end. Thus far then we find our country truly having a hard time coming up with the numbers. As we can understand, our president is in Texas. He came in today and he wants to speak of our economy. However, let's try to understand what is a myth and what is true. This state is the most advanced in our country as far as electronics, and we should have at least a very nice agenda, so then it doesn't become a generalized idea. Oh yes, must find ways of improving our economy, but not giving details of what it is. As we understand, electricity production in this state is very bad. It's more expensive to produce electricity than to gain from. And there are then incentives for generation of electricity, but there is not much interest in doing so because it's not profitable. So then, speaking of the economy, if he doesn't come up with an understanding of electricity, then it's absolutely a bunch of jargon. People should not waste the time listening to a person without knowledge. As we understand, we must produce more electricity, either via coal, or then, most importantly, since we understand there are lots of petroleum, North Dakota, South Dakota, then the government has a plan of depopulation of Louisiana, at least a section of it, plus the Gulf of Mexico. The government has set up then a huge amount of money to depopulate the area. So then, as far as energy, how are we going to produce more jobs without understanding our electricity? Are they expecting some sort of a miracle from heaven other than understanding the basics? So speaking of the economy is very important, but if there is not an understanding of electricity and generation of electricity, so more economies then can be benefited from, what is the use of the talk? As we understand, the government has more than 40 B's invested in the population of the Gulf, but how they are going to do it? People, they have rights of refusing it. So then let's evaluate other countries where then they have a federal system of petroleum. So then we find very important having our own government coming up with the government's petroleum company. So then they can find a way neutral of combining the individual or the individuality of people and individuals as companies. Otherwise the government can't get rid of the people from the Gulf without then having a plan that benefits both. So some areas are very kind of evident when a person is thinking properly. So then let's evaluate from now on the importance of having a person with industrious background and make sense when a person speaks. The only thing going forward for our state is then the extra money given from the federal government a while back. So then we find ourselves then investing in more jobs and such, because larger amount was given to this state, not because the state is producing a lot. So if this country wants to go forward, it must go forward decently and not trying to deceive the people. There is a problem with electricity, there is a problem with petroleum. So then for this plan of the Gulf of Mexico and also Louisiana, in order for the people to consider of leaving the area, they have to have benefits. And if the government does not have a program of its very own, where they can maintain a petroleum company, such as, for instance, in Brazil, the Petrobras system, where then the company works with the government for the benefit of companies and also individuals, how can the government expect then to have the people over there leaving the area? Or maybe the government is waiting for the system then to ruin, so then they take it by force. Very medieval kind of a thinking. So let's make sure we don't place the certified PhD tube in front and then come up with stupid ideas. It's best not having any kind of a certificate in thinking straight. So then our government does not end up with a group of scoundrels in the government only sucking the money and doing nothing.